Elon Musk, love him or hate him, dropped a tweet that really got my brain buzzing. He said, "Who wrote the software running in your head? Are you sure you actually want it there?" And let me tell you, that, my friends, is the $1,000,000 question, or perhaps the multi-million-dollar question if you play your cards right. Because here is the cold, hard truth. Most people, and I mean most, haven't actually practiced thinking. When you're chatting with them, you're not really chatting with them. You're chatting with their TV, their social media feeds, their parents' voices, their teacher's dogma, their deepest insecurities, their childhood traumas, or even, get this, patterns they picked up from AI. It is like talking to a very polite, very well-programmed robot, everyone's screaming about being authentic, but then they just parrot that same line from someone else. The irony, it is thicker than my bank account after a good trading day. But here is the kicker. You can't escape this, not entirely. It is just how our magnificent yet often misguided minds work. Our brains are wired to remember what keeps us alive, and the more something is repeated, the more deeply ingrained it becomes. It's like a super efficient, super biased filing system. Your conscious mind, bless its little cotton socks, can process like 50 bits of information per second. 50. That's barely enough to decide what to order for lunch. Meanwhile, your unconscious mind, the real MVP, is chilling, processing 11 million bits per second. It is basically a supercomputer running on autopilot. So, if you want to actually change your life, not just pretend to, your most crucial mission, should you choose to accept it, is to use that tiny, precious conscious attention to become acutely aware of, and then to reprogram that 11 million bit per second beast lurking in your unconscious. As the legendary Carl Jung, the OG mind mapper, once put it, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Fate, my ass. It is just bad programming. Imagine if you could reprogram this unconscious supercomputer to automatically steer you toward success. You wouldn't have to think about what to do. You'd just do it, like a well-oiled wealth-generating machine. And most people, because they haven't done this mental spring cleaning, are basically sleepwalking off a cliff. They're on a predetermined path from birth. They never question it. They're blind to their own actions and their destination. Well, let's just say it rhymes with pure mediocrity. That is why it is absolutely crucial to understand how you got into this mess in the first place. And trust me, this isn't some fluffy surface, level self-help mumbo-jumbo. We're digging into the roots here, the deep, dark secrets of why we're all a bit, shall we say, financially challenged, and it is kind of mind-blowing. Seriously, once we peel back these layers, and your mind explodes with the realization of, holy smokes, this is actually happening, then, and only then, will we talk about how to reprogram your mind for automatic, unstoppable success. First up, let's talk about the social matrix. And no, we're not just talking about Keanu Reeves dodging bullets, though that is pretty cool too. Krishnamurti, another wise old dude, said, "Thought is always conditioned, and therefore thought is always mechanical." Thinking, my friends, is mostly just an automatic playback of old patterns, not some brilliant conscious deliberation. Every thought, every single one, bubbles up from memory from the past when you're thinking. You're just hitting rewind on stored patterns, not creating a symphony of new ideas. Now, why does this matter? You're going to have to brace yourselves, because this isn't a pretty picture. There is a logical sequence, a relentless loop, that forms this social matrix. And the only way to break free, to actually see the matrix, is to understand it. And while we're talking about the matrix, like the movie, we are, but we're not talking about some red pill escape. The matrix, start, a busyness, and break free from society, cliché. No, no, no. We're talking about understanding the actual matrix, because it is real, and it is running your life. Full disclosure, everything we're about to dive into is a condensed version of, and my own spicy take on, a phenomenal video called The Social Matrix by Actualized.org. Seriously, go watch it. It is like 3 hours of pure mind expansion. Actualized.org has literally reshaped my life in more ways than I can count, and I owe that dude a huge debt of gratitude. Subscribe to him. Now, so let's jump headfirst into this actual social matrix. First, it all starts with your parents. Bless their hearts. They were brainwashed by their parents, who were brainwashed by their parents, and so on. Ad nauseum. They unconsciously pass down their worldview, their biases, their beliefs, like a digital inheritance. Most parents, let's be real, only love and approve of you if you conform to their values, their beliefs. And you, being a tiny human trying to survive, you conform. You don't want to get kicked out of the house. Out of the tribe. If you want to eat, you gotta play nice, right? These parents, they got their information from the same system. They're now perpetuating, see the delicious irony, That leads us to the second point, early childhood conditioning. Language, my friends, language shapes and limits what you can even conceive of. Stop and actually think about that for a second. The only reason you have the thoughts you have is because of the language you speak, the words that let you articulate those thoughts. Imagine all the ideas you haven't had, all the concepts you can't grasp, simply because your language doesn't have the words for them. Beyond language, cultural norms and values are hardwired into your little brain before you can even think critically. Children, bless their innocent hearts, learn to seek approval by conforming to authority. It's primal. It is how we survive. Which brings us to the third point, public schools. This one's going to sting for some of you, but facts are facts. Public schools, as researched by UC San Diego, were explicitly created to reinforce obedience. Now, whenever I bring up the education system, some people get their knickers in a twist, and usually it is because they're emotionally attached to it or financially dependent on it. They were told since childhood that getting a good education is the only path to success, which, let's be honest, is about as true as a unicorn riding a skateboard. The Prussian education model, the blueprint for our current system, was designed as a long-term solution to social unrest. Through the standardization of thought, specifically, it was engineered to churn out obedient soldiers, compliant citizens, and well-behaved workers, not free-thinking, entrepreneurial trailblazers. Horace Mann, a shrewd educator, brought this method to America during industrialization to educate all those immigrant children. And boom, that is where mandatory attendance, teacher training, national curriculum, standardized testing, age-based divisions, and grade levels all came from. Students were taught how to work and obey, not how to innovate or question, because that is what benefited society back then. So, what is the ripple effect? Teachers, they were educated by the previous generation. In the same system, the curriculum, it is decided by school boards, often comprised of parents who also went through the same system, grade levels, and advancement. They incentivize memorization, not critical thinking. Universities are funded by corporations with their own specific agendas. Academic journals have gatekeepers, also products of the same system, and professors. They have to publish in those approved journals to keep their careers alive. It is a closed loop, folks, a giant, self-licking ice cream cone of conformity. Now, this is where it gets super hairy. The fourth thing, information sources and authority, media and the internet. They're the primary purveyors of mass information, news outlets. They're owned by corporations with one goal, profit. Google's search algorithms. They prioritize university and establishment sources, meaning most people are getting their information from universities, where teachers were trained by other teachers, where parents taught their children, who learned from those teachers. Wikipedia articles written by academics from the same heavily biased school system. Social media, it is an echo chamber on steroids, reinforcing your existing biases and entertainment. It subtly programs your values and worldview in science and academia, scientists and students. They rely on faith in thousands of studies they haven't personally validated. And research funding, it comes from corporations and governments with their own agendas. Most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, this is not good. In other words, students and scientists trust information from other students and scientists who were raised by parents who got their information from prior students and scientists. Do you see the problem here? It is an incestuous loop of information. The teachers of those students and scientists, they were trained on government-provided material, which then found its way into general information sources. This, my friends, should absolutely terrify you. The fifth point, and this is a big one, social media and AI amplify unconsciousness. Herman and Chomsky's propaganda model, bless their brilliant minds, exposed 5 filters through which media shapes our thoughts: corporate ownership, advertising pressures, sourcing from elites, organized flak campaigns, and dominant ideology. This was already a problem with traditional propaganda, but social media and AI, they've taken it to a whole new terrifying level. Social media, it is a mimetic desire amplification machine. Peter Thiel, the brilliant, slightly unsettling billionaire, invested in Facebook because he understood mimetics. He knew how powerful it could be. Social media algorithms say they show you what you want to see, but the reality is they program you to want what others appear to have. Every single scroll reinforces neural pathways that trick you into thinking you actually desire the highlight reel of someone else's curated life. And here's a scary one. In 2024, the Max Planck Institute, smart folks, found the first evidence that ChatGPT actually altered human speech patterns. Usage of certain words often used by AI, increased. In other words, you're starting to talk like the machine that learned to talk like you. Think about it. When you were a kid, language shaped how critically you could think. Now, our language is getting dumber, with AI speak and immature Gen Z lingo. Taking over social media, our minds are slowly narrowing, further guaranteeing mediocrity. In the future, AI will become a foundational layer preceding parental and school programming. Teachers will use AI to teach. Students will use AI to learn, and those students will become teachers and parents. It is a feedback loop of diluted thought. AI is amazing, truly. I use it every single day, but there is a certain way you need to use it so you don't become as dumb as a rock. If you want to understand that way, go watch my video. You have about 36 months to make it. Trust me, it is a wake-up call. And finally, the sixth and last thing. Society is rigged against you. We'll rapid fire through these because I think you're getting the picture by now. The need for a job forces you to conform to your boss's worldview. And guess what? That boss went through the same education system, marketing and advertising. They manipulate your desires from childhood, the food industry. It is incentivized to poison you because hyper-palatable foods are addictive, and addiction clouds mental clarity. The healthcare system. It profits from illness, not health. Social circles punish those who question too deeply. You'll be cast out from the tribe, dating and relationships. They demand conformity, especially if you're lonely and not self-reliant. Politicians. Same education system. Therapists. Same education system. Do you see the pattern? It is a matrix, a circular validation system. Every entity that makes up society and culture, media, education, science, government, business, religion, they all justify and reinforce each other. When one source is questioned, you're met with programmed responses from NPCs like "trust the experts," or "it is in the textbook," or "it is the law," or "it is tradition." Everything is validated against the same flawed system. External validation is a myth. Therefore, we live in an illusion of our own construction. So, let's break down this cyclical nightmare. 1. You are born into a family already programmed by the matrix. 2. You are conditioned by language, culture, and early peer pressure. 3. You are educated in schools that reinforce a worldview that benefits the system. 4. You consume media and entertainment that further shapes your beliefs and desires. 5. You enter the workforce where your survival depends on conformity. 6. You participate in social, religious, and cultural rituals that reinforce group identity. 7. You seek information and validation from sources that are themselves products of the matrix. 8. You are incentivized to conform and disincentivized to question. And 9. You, in turn, pass on the same programming to the next generation. It is a beautiful, terrifying dance, isn't it? So that begs the million-dollar question. How in the world do you actually escape the matrix? Especially since the people who teach you how to escape the matrix are themselves byproducts of the matrix. Talk about a paradox. This is where we shift gears. This is where we talk about how to reprogram your mind for automatic, undeniable success. Let's kick things off with another gem from Maxwell Maltz. The brain and nervous system constitute a marvelous and complex goal-striving mechanism. A sort of built-in automatic guidance system that works for you as a success mechanism.